بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لا سهلا إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. ربي زدني علما. اللهم انفعني بما علمتني وعلمني ما ينفعني. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. We start with the name of Allah. We ask that He makes learning the Quran easy for us. We ask that He increases us in our knowledge. We ask that whatever knowledge He grants us, He makes it beneficial, useful knowledge for us. And we ask that He accepts our small efforts that we are making. Ameen. Um, Before I start this lesson, I just want to mention a few things, inshallah. Um, just a few things to get us in the right frame of mind. Um, the first thing I want to mention is, this week I know has definitely been really quite tough. We've gone through a lot this week. Let me just go to the page. We went through this rule at the beginning, and we started going through these rules of the Nun Sakin Tanween, and excuse me. And I know that it is quite a lot to learn in such a short space of time. 100%, I do understand that. So if you feel like you're not perfect at everything, or there are gaps in your knowledge, or you kind of understand it, but at the same time you find it hard to kind of like identify it or apply it, or you find that maybe a previous week's lesson, you're not really remembering it as well, or something like that. If you feel like you're not doing as well as you would like, um, just bear in mind how much you've done in this short space of time is a lot. Normally it would take someone maybe a year or 2 years to do what we are trying to do in the space of a month. So keep that in mind, keep that perspective. And at the same time, I want everyone to keep in mind that it's part of the process of struggling, and finding things difficult is all part of the learning process. When you learn something new, it's not going to be perfect straight away. And there's a phrase that I really like to say. I think maybe Bruce Lee said it or someone said it, but the phrase is, the master has failed more times than the student has tried. So, right now, you guys are students, and you are trying and you're trying, and you might be failing, you might be trying again, you might be failing again. It could be anything. It might not be rules. It might just be a letter. It might be a particular letter like ha or ain or ghain or qaf or sad or anything. Anything at all that we've learned new this month. Anything at all, from the makhraj of the letters, to the vowels, to the method, to all the different rules that we've gone over. If you are struggling with something, just understand that it's part of the process. It's part of the process. Struggling, finding it difficult is part of the process. You're going to try and you're going to fail. You're going to try and you'll fail again. And you have to fail many times before you'll eventually get it. And that's just part of the learning process. But what I will tell you is it's 100% worth it to put all the effort in. Is 100% worth it, and even more worth it. If I could go back in time and do all my learning again, all of my hifz again, everything that I've done with regards to the Quran, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would never even hesitate to go back and do it again, because it's 100% worth it. All the struggle, all the hardship, all the effort is 100%, wallahi, is worth it in the end. That what you get out of it is far greater than what you put into it. So keep that in mind. And one more thing that I want everyone to keep in mind is, the goal is not to, our goal is not to just read Quran perfectly. And I mentioned this at the start of the course. The goal is not to become, perfect at reading Quran and things like that. But the goal is to become closer to Allah. Okay. So if our struggles make us closer to Allah, that if we are struggling with something and it humbles us, it makes us realize our own weaknesses, our own shortcomings. Um, you know, we are human being at the end of the day, and no human being is perfect. So, if we're struggling with something, and it makes us realize that we are human, and it makes us realize that we have a Rabb who is perfect, and it helps us become closer to our Rabb, then that's that's the best thing that can happen. Yeah, if you have a struggle, if you have a hardship, and it doesn't need to be just with Quran, it can be with anything. But if you're struggling and it causes you to ask Allah for help, if you're struggling with Quran, learning Quran, or with a particular letter or a rule or anything, and you ask Allah for help with learning that thing, or applying that thing, or doesn't even need to be Quran, can be anything. If a struggle, if a hardship, if a difficulty brings you closer to Allah, then the hardship is a blessing in disguise. And the flip side, if you find things easy, and if everything is easy for you, but it brings you away from Allah, it takes you away from Allah, then that thing is not really a good thing. So just keep this in mind, that if you are struggling, ask Allah for help, and inshallah it will be something good for you. Um, so just those few things I wanted to mention. Just keep that mindset that number one, we are covering a lot of things in a short space of time. So there will 100% be things that you struggle with. Number two, struggling is just part of the process. Every student has, failed countless times, and any student that will come will also fail countless times. Failing is just part of the process to attaining mastery over something. And um, number three is, if your struggle brings you closer to Allah, then alhamdulillah, that's a blessing. So just with those things in mind, we'll start today's lesson, inshallah. So yesterday, we went through the idgham rule. It was quite a tricky rule to go through. There were two types of idgham. We mentioned the letters associated with idgham. So far now we have idhar, iqlab, and idgham completed. So what I'm going to do is, just before we cover ikhfa, I'm going to do a very, very, very quick summary of these three rules. So if you want to make notes, or if you have notes and you want to look over them, then that's completely fine. I'm just going to make a summary of the three rules we have covered today. So I'm just going to write down rule as a title, rules of nun sakin / tanween. Okay, so when we're talking about rules of nun sakin tanween, we're talking about those four rules. So the first thing, and this is important to note, is this is for everything. Whenever we see a nun sakin or tanween, we must stop and look at the next letter. Okay. So this is basic. This is the basic premise of the rules. You have to check the next letter, because that letter will determine the rule that you apply. Okay. So that's the first thing to note, that whenever we see a nun sakin or tanween in the Quran, you have to stop and look at the next letter. Okay. So the first rule we covered was idhar, and we mentioned that means clear. So idhar, if the letter after nun sakin or tanween is a letter of the throat. So I'm just writing letter of the is a throat letter. I'm just going to write throat letter. But you guys need to know what are the throat letters. You need to memorize them. You need to know that when we talk about throat letter, we're talking about hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Okay. So these are the letters of the throat. I'm just writing it throat letter just to keep it short. But if you want to, just write it down, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha, in Arabic, then that's completely fine. Then the nun sakin or tanween will be read, and then I'll just do this in bold, clearly, with no change. And I just write, think of it as the control group, because we're not doing anything with the idhar, we're just reading it as it is. So that's the first rule that we covered. Then the next rule was iqlab. So iqlab. And we mentioned that means change. So we're changing something with iqlab. If the letter after nun sakin or tanween is the letter ba, then the noon sound, so I'll do that in quotation marks, the noon sound will be changed into a meme sound and ghunna will be applied on the, I'll just write ghunna will be applied, but you should know that we're talking about on the meme sound. Yeah. So let me just highlight this. So I'm going to highlight that, and make that a bit bold. Ghunna will be applied is very, very important because it's very, very easy to forget. Generally, iqlab with the, I've noticed that with the script that we'll be using with Quran, I had a look, and you will see a little meme. You will see a small meme whenever the iqlab rule is there. So that should be a hint for you that you're changing into a meme sound. But what won't be there is the little line underneath the meme. You have to put that line there to indicate the ghunna. So make sure that you do that. Then we have idgham, and we mentioned that there are two types. So idgham, we'll mention without ghunna first. Idgham without ghunna. So if the letter after noon sakin or tanween is ra or lam, then the noon sound, so I'll again just do that in quotation marks, noon sound will be removed and the letter, so when I write the letter, again, I'm just, if it's a noon sakin, it's the letter before noon sakin. And if it's a tanween, it's the letter that is on that is related with the tanween. So I hope that just makes sense. So I'm just doing that in italics. The letter will be merged with the letter after noon sakin tanween. Okay, so that is the idgham without ghunna rule in a nutshell. You're just removing the noon sound. That's the main thing. Okay, and then you're merging it. Okay, and then idgham with ghunna. So idgham with ghunna, and we can literally copy and paste this because it's literally the same rule. So I can just go ahead here and just copy and paste it. And all I need to do is change these letters. So instead of ra or lam, I'm going to have yawman. So ya, wow, meme, or noon. Then the noon sound will be removed and the letter will be removed. And then just lastly, ghunna will be applied on the letter after noon sag. So I'll just write and ghunna will be applied. So and ghunna will be applied. So this is also very, very important to remember because I noticed from the voice notes that I did receive with regards to idgham with ghunna, from the voice notes I received, this is the only rule I think everyone, as a class, were making mistakes on. With all the other rules, I think it was all fairly solid. Idhar, there weren't mistakes. Iqlab, there wasn't mistakes. Idgham without ghunna, there wasn't mistakes. Just only with idgham with ghunna, there was mistake, and the mistake was this thing. So I'm just going to highlight it in a different color, so cyan. So just make sure that you do apply ghunna because that's a common mistake across the class. So make sure you do apply ghunna, and you'll apply on the ya, waw, mim, or nun. Okay. So that's just a quick summary of the three rules we've covered so far. 3, 4 if you split idgham into two. So hopefully, inshallah, if you don't understand it or if you haven't had a chance to practice it, inshallah, you'll have a long time to practice over the weekend today. Well, not today, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'll have a lot of time to just go over all the rules and you have a lot of time to practice, inshallah. So if you haven't had much time to practice, don't worry about it. Inshallah, the weekend is very, very near. So inshallah, you'll have time on the weekend. Just a test. How is it now? Is my voice okay now? If you guys can hear me, just a 1. If you can't hear me, it's just a 5. Okay, if you'd like me to repeat anything, just let me know, inshallah. That's fine. Yeah, so if you just want me to repeat anything, just let me know, inshallah, and I'm happy to repeat. So yeah, so those are the 3 rules that we've gone over so far. Now the plan for today, we've got 40 minutes left, is to go over ikhfa. I'll do that in red. The plan is to go over ikhfa and then go over the rules of the mim sakin. Now I mentioned yesterday the rules of the mim sakin, very, very simple and basic compared to these 3. So once you know it, it's just a matter of applying it. So let's begin. Bismillah. So ikhfa is the last of the nun sakin tanween rules, and it's quite a doozy. If you look at it, there's 15 letters over here. So let's just go through the rule, inshallah. Yeah. So ikhfa means to hide. It means to hide. So that's a hint at what we are going to do. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going to write down a few words in English. Hungry. Let me think of another one. Okay, I can't think of any others at the moment, but hungry. Okay, so just a quick question. The N in hungry, can you really hear it? Yes or no? In the chat. Hungry. When I say hungry, can you really hear the N, or is it not clear? Like, for example, compare it to the word no, where the N is very clear. Can you hear the N in hungry? Not clear. Yeah. So we've basically, when you say the word hungry, you're hiding the sound of the N. It's not very clear. It is there, but it's hidden. Okay, so that's just a little hint at ikhfa. Okay, so ikhfa means to hide. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to hide the sound of the nun. Okay, so the rule is if after nun sakin or tanween any of the remaining letters appear. So we've gone over the 3 rules. The first rule, there were the throat letters. Iqlab was the letter ba, and idgham was ya, waw, mim, nun, ra, lam. So ikhfa, any of the remaining 15 letters, ta, tha, jim, dal, dal, za, sin, shin, sad, dad, ba, dha, fa, qaf, kaf. If any of these letters come after the nun sakin or tanween, then what you are going to do is you are going to hide the sound of the nun in your nose, and you're going to apply a light ghunna. So it's going to be hidden in the nose, and a light ghunna will be applied, a light nasal sound. Note that I'm saying light, not a strong nasal sound, a light nasal sound. What does this mean? Well, I'm just going to go through a few examples and inshallah try to explain it through example, because obviously the theory is generally a bit more confusing than the actual thing. But have a listen, inshallah. So over here we have the nun sakin, yeah, and the letter after it is the shin, and it's also a stretch letter. So shin is among the group or related to ikhfa. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to hide the sound of the nun. If you remember before, with iqlab, with idhar, we read the nun clearly. And with iqlab, we changed it into a mim. With idgham, we completely removed it. We removed it completely. But now with ikhfa, we are hiding it. So what that means is, instead of reading the nun, with our tongue touching the top part of the mouth, our tongue is going to be floating in the mouth, and the sound will come from the nose. So listen very, very carefully. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to apply the ikhfa rule. And I mentioned there's a light nasal sound, so that's why I've put a little line underneath. So this is fa, man, faman, sha. And now I will apply the ikhfa rule. Listen carefully. فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ. Now compare it with this. فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ. And now the ikhfa rule. فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ. When I'm applying the ikhfa rule, my tongue is not touching the top part of the mouth. My tongue is not touching anything. My tongue is just, relaxed. It's not touching any part of the mouth. So when you apply the ikhfa rule, that's what you have to do. And the sound, the fama, that sound is coming from my nose. Okay? And it's a light nasal sound, not a heavy nasal sound. Ghunna is a heavy nasal sound. For example, inna, inna. That one, you can hear the noon clearly, and it's a very, very strong, heavy nasal sound. But with ikhfa, the sound is very light, and the reason it's light is because your tongue is not touching anything. Now, this rule, applying this rule is, it can be easy for some, and it can be difficult for others. It just varies from person to person. But the trick is to not touch anything with your tongue. Make sure your tongue does not touch the roof of the mouth, because obviously you see the noon, and you have a habit of moving your tongue up there to read the noon. But what you have to do is force yourself to not do that, and just keep it floating there, and apply that nasal sound instead. So, and the best way to apply the nasal sound is just by listening and trying to copy it. So I'll do it again a few more times. فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ فَمَن شَاءَ. Okay, I'll do another one. One with the tanween. So here we have a tanween on the scene. Okay, so we need to check the next letter, and the next letter is dal, and dal is part of the group of the ikhfa letters. So that means we are going to apply a light nasal sound on the noon sound. So the noon sound, instead of reading waka'san, we are going to hide the sound of the noon in our nose. So instead of reading waka'sandi, waka'sandi, we are going to read waka'sandi, 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 waka'sandi. Okay, so again, we aren't reading the noon sound. So instead of saying sun, we're kind of saying like sa, and then that n sound is kind of hidden. So it's still there, but it's not really a strong n sound because our tongue is not touching the top of the mouth. The tongue is just floating, and the sound comes from the nose. So it's more like waka, and then I'm just gonna do a little squiggly line, waka sandi, because it's not really like any. It doesn't sound like any letter. It's just a sound of the nose. So that's basically what you're trying to achieve with the ikhfa. So I just want to gauge the class at the moment. How's everyone feeling about this rule? A 1 if you understand it and you can do it, a 5 if you don't understand it, and a 3 if you understand it but you need practice. If you have any questions, do ask, please. So again, this rule, a lot of threes. This rule, the main thing is listening and practice. You won't get it straight away because it is something that is it sounds a bit strange the first time you hear it. But now that you are aware of this rule, I guarantee you that if you listen to a qari reciting the Quran, you will always now notice their ikhfas. You'll notice when they're doing the ikhfa, and you will notice how they do it as well. So my advice to you guys is maybe download a long surah of the Quran, whichever surah you like, onto your phone, or maybe just put it up on YouTube and listen to it and listen out for the ikhfas and try to imitate it. That's the best way I think to practice, is just by listening and trying to imitate the sound. Um, because you now you technically have the knowledge of how to do it. All you're doing is you're going to make sure your tongue does not touch the roof of the mouth. Keep your tongue floating and apply a light nasal sound. So the trick is to practice that light nasal sound. And the best way to practice is just by listening and trying to copy. Okay. And if it doesn't sound right, then you have to just keep on practicing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to this notes that we made at the beginning of the class, and we can just add ikhfa in now. So ikhfa, and that means to hide. So if after nun sakin or tanween, any of the 15 remaining letters appear, then the noon sound will be hidden. Okay. So how to actually apply it? Keep the tongue. Wait. So I'll just write. Make sure the tongue does not touch the roof of the mouth. So keep the tongue floating in the mouth. And apply a light nasal sound. Okay, so this is not ghunna. It's not ghunna. Ghunna is a heavy nasal sound. This is a light nasal sound. That's why it's called ikhfa. It's a light nasal sound. Okay. Make sure the tongue does not touch the roof of the mouth. Okay. So that's how to apply it. Now, how to identify it? Any of the 15 remaining letters appear. Now, that does sound like a lot, and it does sound like a lot to memorize, but personally, I don't think it is, just because I learned this when I was a bit younger, and the reason why I don't think it's too difficult to memorize these 15 letters is a lot of them are all consecutive. So if we just go through them, we have ta, tha, jim, dal, dhal, za, sin, shin, sad, bad, ta, dha, fa, qaf, kaf. So a lot of these are all pretty much consecutive. You have from ta to dhal, these are consecutive. You know, in terms of the order of the alphabet, alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, dal, dhal, dal, dhal. Ra is missing. Then you have za, sin, shin, sad, dad, ta, dha. These are all consecutive. Then you have ain, ghain missing, and then you have fa, qaf, kaf. So it might seem like a lot to memorize, but if you are comfortable with just reading the entire alphabet from beginning to end, then you'll notice that these letters are all consecutive, and they're just in groups like this. So I think this is a nice way to just learn it. Just read it out a few times. Ta, tha, jim, dal, dhal, za, shin, sin, shin, sad, dad, ta, dha, fa, qaf, kaf, like that. Just keep on reading it a few times, and then over time you'll just
just quick question. So after tha, jim, is there not ha missing there as well?
Oh yes, that's right. So ha and kha is also missing. So
yeah, so
let me just get rid of that. Yeah, so you have ta, tha, jim, and then ha, kha. Fantastic. Jazakallah khair for catching that up. Dal, dal, and then za, sin, shin, and then so on. Yeah. So okay, so 4 groups of consecutive letters. If that's a bit too difficult, but I personally don't think it is difficult. I think it's just, it might seem a bit overwhelming because it's 15 letters, but with a bit of practice, you'll be able to memorize it, inshallah. But until you're able to memorize it, what you can do is use the process of elimination to determine if it's ikhfa. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are confident with the other 3 rules, like very, very, very confident, then you'll be able to identify ikhfa quite easily, because you can look at something. So if we go to the ikhfa rule, so let's just look at this one here. So we have a noon sakin. So let's just assume that we don't know this is on the ikhfa part. We have to identify which of the 4 rules we are applying. We need to apply either idhar, iqlab, idgham, or ikhfa. One of those 4. So we check the next letter. Okay. Now we know that ta is not a letter of the throat because it's coming from our tongue touching between the gums and the teeth. So it's not a letter of the throat. So it will not be idhar. It will not be the control rule. It will not be idhar. So we can rule out idhar. Now iqlab is just the letter ba. So we know this is not ba, so it's not going to be iqlab. That means we only have 2 options left, idgham or ikhfa. Now idgham, you really only have to remember the letters ra, lam, and yawman. So ra, lam, so it's not idgham without ghunna. And yawman, ya, waw, mim, nun, it's not any of those either. So it's not idgham with ghunna. So it's not idgham. So by process of elimination, we know it must be ikhfa. We are going to hide the sound of the nun. So this will be man tagha, man tagha, man tagha. Okay, so now that you know the 4 rules, you've been introduced to all of these 4 rules. It's just a matter of practice, practice, practice. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable you'll get with each one. If you feel confident with idhar, then there's no need to practice it. If you feel confident with iqlab, then there's no need to practice it for now. If you feel a bit weak on idgham, then practice it. And obviously now you've all been introduced to ikhfa, so this one must be practiced. So the more you practice it, the better you'll get, and the more adept you will become at identifying it. Because obviously when we're practicing it with just particular pages, it is a lot more easier to see what we are doing. So if I just go down to the ikhfa one, so where is ikhfa? Page 68. So ikhfa, if I go down to the practice on ikhfa, okay, so over here, let's look at this one here. Okay, let me just put the thickness a bit down, change it to red. Okay, actually I'll keep it blue. So here we have a few noon sakins and tanweens. Okay, so we have a noon sakin here, we have a noon sakin here, we have a tanween here. Okay, I'm just going to circle it. We have a tanween here. So we have four noon sakin tanween rules just in this one little bit. Now, not all of these are going to be ikhfa. Okay, so this practice page is ikhfa, but not all of these are ikhfa. So you have to take your time, look through your notes, and decide which rule you're going to apply on each one. Okay, so the first one, let's look at the first one. So after this noon sakin, we see the letter ha. The letter ha. Now, what is the makhraj of ha? Ha comes from the bottom of the throat. So we know this is a letter of the throat. Therefore, this noon sakin is going to be the idhar rule. What does that mean? It means we will read the noon sakin clearly. We will not make any change to how it sounds. Okay? So that's this first noon sakin done. Now let's look at the next one. We have a noon sakin here. We need to look at the next letter to decide what we're going to do. So the next letter is the letter tha. Tha. Now what you can do is if you have memorized the rules, then you'll already know what to do with it. But if you haven't memorized, all the letters, then just take it step by step. Tha, is it a letter of the throat? Yes or no? No. So it's not going to be idhar. Is it the letter ba? No. So it's not going to be iqlab. Is it a letter of idgham? Let's have a look at the letters of idgham. So the letters of idgham were ra and lam, or ya, waw, mim, nun. These were the 6 letters of idgham. Ra, lam, ya, waw, mim, nun. It's not that, so therefore it must be ikhfa by a process of elimination. So we're going to do a ikhfa on this nun here. Okay. Now let's look at the next one here, the tanween here. I've just circled it. You don't need to circle it, but I've just circled it to highlight it. Now we need to check the next letter to see what we're going to do. So the next letter is ra. Now I just mentioned that ra is idgham without ghunna. That means we are going to merge this ta with the ra, and we will remove the sound of the nun from the tanween. Okay. And lastly, we have this tanween here, this on the qaf. So the next letter is not this lam alif, is this qaf here. So let's decide what we're going to do. Qaf, is it a letter of the throat? Yes or no? No, qaf is not a letter of the throat. The letters of the throat are hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Qaf is from the mouth. So it's not idhar. Is this ba? No. So it's not going to be iqlab. Is it a letter of idgham? Idgham, we just mentioned, is ra, lam, ya, waw, mim, nun. Ra, lam, ya, waw, mim, nun. So it's not any of them. Therefore, it must be ikhfa. We will apply light nasal sound on the tanween here. Okay. So just take it systematically like that. If you have trouble with memorizing it, just take it step by step and take your time with it. And in doing so, you'll become more confident with applying the rules. And then, if you take your time with it, the next time you see the letter qaf after a nun sakin tanween, you'll automatically know, hey, I saw qaf before, and that was ikhfa, so qaf is definitely going to be ikhfa again. Or I saw the letter tha before, and I did ikhfa, so every time I see a tha now, I know that tha is a letter of ikhfa. I'm going to do an ikhfa. Okay. And the more you practice, the more accustomed you get to seeing the letters and just knowing which rule to apply. So I can't overstate how important it is to practice. Okay. So how would we read this? I'll just go through the ikhfa ones. I'm not going to go through the idhar or the idgham, but the ikhfa part. So just this part here. This would be min tha, min tha. So we're not reading min. We're not reading min tha because the noon is too heavy there, and it's clear we're hiding the noon sound. So it's not min tha. It's min tha. Miltha. Miltha. The sound should come from your nose. If you have a blocked nose, it'll be quite difficult to do the ikhfa sound. So I'm just going to cover up my nose and see if I can do it. I can't do it. It's impossible. It's like a light nasal sound. So if you cover up your nose, you won't be able to do the ikhfa. So that's just, if you want to test yourself to see if you're making the sound right or not, maybe you can just cover up your nose, like block the holes in your nostrils, and see if the sound is able to come out. And if it's unable to come out, then it means you're most likely doing the ikhfa correctly. Yeah, just a little test. The next one was this one here. So rizqan, and the next letter was qaf. So rizqan qa, rizqan qa, rizqan qa. We're not saying qan, we're not saying rizqan qa, we're saying rizqan qa. Okay. So that's the ikhfa rule, and I just wanted to go through just just a little bit of practice, just to show you guys how to go about identifying them, because on this practice page it's not going to be just ikhfa. There's going to be other things as well. Yeah, if I look at this one here, I can already tell you that not all of the nun sakins are ikhfa. Yeah. This, for example, this fa, this tanween here is followed by the letter kha, and that's the letter of the throat. So this is going to be idhar, but this is ikhfa. That's ikhfa. Yeah. So you do have to actually take your time with the practice, because not everything is ikhfa. There will be instances and things that are, idgham or iqlab or, other things that we've learned. So over the weekend, make sure that you go through these practice pages, not just on the ikhfa page, but go through the other pages too. If I go to idgham, if I go to the idgham page, so 76. So if I go on to, okay, that was the ikhfa page. Okay, so if I just go to the idgham page, okay, most of these are, I think, idgham, but let's go on to the next one and just have a look. Okay, so over here, yeah, you'll have to just go through it and just make sure that you practice it properly. Take your time with everything and don't rush it. Don't just assume everything is going to be idgham. Okay, there might be an ikhfa thrown in somewhere, or there might be a different rule. This one is all idgham, but I'm just saying take your time with it, because there are 4 rules now, and the only way to get comfortable with them is to take your time with them, practice each one, and really think about what you're doing. Think about which letters belong to which rule, okay? And think about what you're going to do once you've identified the rule. First step 1 is to identify the rule. Step 2 is to decide what you're going to do once you've identified the rule, okay? Make sure that you are doing the correct thing, because there are 4 different things that you can do now. Does anyone have any questions at the moment, just about anything at all, or anything that you might be worried about, or anything that you're just curious about? Brother Shahriar?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just want to ask, what's the difference between a light nasal sound and then a ghunna?
Fantastic question. So if I go to the ikhfa, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the difference, yeah? So I will read this one again, okay? So I'll read this one first with a heavy nasal sound, and then I'll read it again with a light nasal sound. So with a heavy nasal sound, it will sound like this. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَمَنْ شَاءَ. And the light nasal sound, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَمَنْ شَاءَ. The difference is with the heavy nasal sound, the noon is clear. The sound of the noon is very clear. You can hear it very clearly. And you can also feel it more in the nose. If you say it, you'll feel it in the nose. But with the light nasal sound, you feel it less in the nose, and your tongue is not touching the roof of the mouth. Your tongue is just, floating there. So that's the difference between heavy and light. Brother Saeed?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is, with the rules, I'm okay with the rules. I'm memorizing it. It's just when I'm reciting Quran, like, would you want me to actually just literally stop and physically look at the next letter? Like, how will I get to your level?
Okay.
Will it become automatic?
That's a really good question. Inshallah, next week, what we'll do is we will come on to how to go about practicing everything we've learned in the Quran. Because there is a method, and inshallah, I'll teach you how to go about practicing everything. But that's going to be next week when we come on to Quran, inshallah. Yeah. For now, what to do is just practice with the Tajweed booklet, inshallah. And next week when we come on to Quran, you'll see how to go about practicing the rules, inshallah. Yeah. But it's a very good question. Inshallah, we'll do it next week. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So what I want to do in these last 10 minutes is go over the rule of the mim sakin. So again, I do know we've gone through a lot in these last few days. These are, you know, a lot of things. My brain's hurting just talking about them. Your brains must be completely fried listening to me and having to hear me, you know, constantly go over the same things over and over. But inshallah, hopefully it'll get digested. And with practice over the weekend, you'll be very, very confident with these, I hope, inshallah. So in the last 10 minutes, I just want to go over the last rule. And this is the last rule of this booklet. So we've come to the end of the Tajweed, the bulk of it. And next week we will be onto Quran. So this is the last rule, you know, from this booklet that we'll be learning. Every other rule that we learn after this rule is just gonna be one of these. When it comes along, I will explain it. You will learn it, and that's it. We're gonna go along like that. In terms of things to memorize, things like that, this is going to be the last thing, inshallah. So the light at the end of the tunnel is finally here. Okay. So the rules of the mim sakin. We've gone over rules of noon sakin. Now we are coming to the rules of the mim sakin. So these are rules associated with the mim sakin. Anytime we see a mim sakin, there is going to be a rule associated with it. Okay. Now I mentioned a very, very long time ago, and I mentioned it quite a lot, that I keep things as simple as possible. I won't tell you to memorize something if you don't need to memorize it. Okay. When we went through the makhraj of the letters, I didn't ask you to memorize all of them. I just asked you to memorize a few of them, the important ones, and everything else I just, you know, gave a basic explanation. So with this rule, I'm going to give a very, very, very basic explanation. You don't need to know these words. You don't need to memorize them. If you do want to know about it, I can explain it to you. But just for the sake of this class, I am not going to explain it now, inshallah. So don't worry about memorizing these. Don't worry about learning these names, okay? I am just going to explain the rule, okay? So let me open up. So let's just go down. So if you're wondering why Shafawi, the word Shafawi comes, Shafawi means lips. So, you know, these rules are associated with the lips because when we say the letter mim, we are using our lips. So that's why the word Shafawi is there. So the first rule, you don't need to learn the name, and I don't want you to learn the name as well because it's going to confuse you with noon sakin. So don't learn the name. Let's just cross it out. We don't need to learn the name. If mim sakin is followed by ba, actually, I'm just going to cross this whole thing out. Don't learn this. Okay, do not learn this. Okay, I'm going to rewrite the rule, and I'm going to rewrite it in a more simple way, inshallah. Okay. Okay, so let's have a new title. Rules of the mim sakin. So the first rule is, if after mim sakin this time, so not noon sakin, not tanween, just mim sakin, if after mim sakin the letter ba appears, the mim sakin will be read with gunna. How simple is that, guys? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most simple, how simple is this rule compared to all the other things we've learned? Just want to know in the chat, how simple is this rule? If after mim sakin the letter ba appears, the mim will be read with gunna. Okay, let's just go through an example really quickly, just to see how simple it is. Okay, so over here, let's just look at, actually I'll do over here, yeah? So actually not that one, I'll do this one, yeah? So the one on the right. So if I look at here, we have the mim sakin, okay? The ha connected to the mim. So this word, fabashirhum. So after the mim sakin, we see the letter ba. So we're gonna put a gunna on the mim. Simple. So instead of reading fabashirhum, we're going to read fabashirhum, fabashirhum bi, fabashirhum bi. We're applying a gunna on the mim, okay? Don't memorize this, okay? Don't memorize this. I want you to do what I've told you. Put a ghunna on the mim sakin, yeah? فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِهِ. That's the first rule of the mim sakin, okay? The second rule, you can memorize this, but I'll rewrite it anyway. So the second rule, if after mim sakin, the letter mim appears, the second mim, so I'll do that in quotation marks, the second mim, actually I'll just do the second mim will be read with ghunna. Again, very, very, very simple, okay? In fact, I think the second meme generally has a shadda on it as well. So that makes it even more simple. So yeah, so you can see that the second meme will always have a shadda on it too. So that makes it even more easy to identify the ghunna, okay? You see the meme with the shadda, you're gonna automatically just put a line underneath it because it should be a ghunna. But if we look carefully, the reason why the shadda is there is because there's a meme sakin here, followed by the letter mim. So this second mim is going to be read with a ghunna. Okay, so this is وَآمَنَهُمْ, and the second word is min. So this would be read وَآمَنَهُمْ min. So it's not the first mim, it's the second mim we are putting the ghunna on. وَآمَنَهُمْ min. So essentially what you're doing is you're joining the ha to this meme over here, okay? And we're getting rid of this meme. That's why it's called idgham shafawi. Well, you know, when we were doing idgham, we removed the noon sound and we joined it with the other letter. Yeah, that's why it's called idgham shafawi. We are, you know, we're merging this ha with this meme over here. Okay, but that's a bit too technical, and don't worry about technicalities. Just focus on learning the rule and applying it. So the rule is, if after mim sakin the letter mim appears, the second mim will be read with ghunna. So again, two rules, nice and simple. You know, only two letters so far, ba and mim. Now, the last rule, if after mim sakin any other letter appears, the mim sakin will be read clearly. No change. Okay, so these are all the three rules of mim sakin. Can put these in bullet points. Okay, so first rule, if after mim sakin the letter ba appears, the mim sakin will be read with ghunna. Second rule, if after mim sakin the letter mim appears, the second mim will be read with ghunna. And the last one, this is the control rule. So control rule, we're not making any change. So if any letter that is not ba and not mim appears, you're not going to make any change at all. Okay, so if we look at example, this one here, we have the mim sakin followed by a letter that is not ba and not mim. So we're just going to read hum an, no change. Just whatever you see, you're going to read. Over here, mim sakin followed by a letter that is not mim and not ba. We're just going to read it normal. Alam yaj'al, no change at all. So how's everyone feeling on the mim sakin rules? A 1 if you feel good and happy about them. A 5 if you'd like me to repeat or explain any of the rules again. Alhamdulillah, I did tell you guys yesterday that the meme sakin rules are very simple. We'll go over it in 10 minutes. So main thing is just remember the letters ba and mim. If the letter ba or mim appears, there is going to be a ghunna somewhere. Yes, inshallah. So if you want to just take a screenshot or a picture of this, so you can rewrite the rule, that's completely fine. Also, the recording will be available, inshallah, if you want to just go back and check it. So over the weekend, you guys have got now Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to practice everything that we've done so far. Okay, because on Monday, inshallah, we will come on to Quran. We'll start reading Quran, and we're going to start putting everything together, inshallah. So what I want you guys to do over the weekend, go from everything from the beginning, from everything from the makhraj of the letters, all the various rules that we've learned along the way, and just have a go look through everything, see if there are any gaps in your knowledge. If there's something that you're unsure about, practice it. Okay, practice is the main thing. It's not just about theory, it's about practice too. So practice things, practice the letters you have difficulty with, practice the rules you have difficulty with, memorize the rules that you haven't memorized yet. Okay, if there's a rule that you haven't memorized properly, it might be even an early rule like qalqala or something like that, then memorize that rule and try to practice it. Okay, that's the main thing I want everyone to do over the weekend, is practice as much as you can. Okay, whatever you send me on the weekend is up to you. I will not tell you what to send me. Whatever you practice, you can send it to me, and I will inshallah have a listen. I'll give you my feedback. If you want to practice letters, practice the letters, read to me the letters again. If you want to practice the rules, if you want to practice ikhfa, please do send me ikhfa. I'm not saying you don't need to send me anything, nothing at all. Practice ikhfa because I want to see how everyone gets along with ikhfa. So go on to the ikhfa wherever it is, and practice the ikhfa rule, and try to send me at least 1 or 2 things about ikhfa, so I can see if you are doing the sound correctly or if you need to make a change to the sound. And that way as well, you'll see if you're doing it correctly or not if you send me a voice note, inshallah. So practice ikhfa too. Make sure you do practice ikhfa. But alongside ikhfa, practice anything that you feel you need to practice. And my advice when it comes to practice is, if it scares you, if it's something that you don't want to do, then most likely you need to do it. Okay, that's the best way to know what to practice. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, if it's out of your comfort zone, if it's something that you're like, oh, I'm not really good at this, I don't want to do it. If you get that feeling in your heart, then you need to do it. That's the best way you're going to improve, is by getting out of that comfort zone, by doing something you have difficulty with. And through that practice, inshallah, over time, you'll get more comfortable with it, guys. So over the weekend, make sure you practice as much as you can. Send me whatever you like for voice notes. I'll listen to it. Try to send it with pictures, of course, and inshallah, I will respond whenever I can. And on Monday, inshallah, the plan is that we will go on to Quran and we'll start practicing everything from Quran. We will still learn a few new Tajweed rules here and there, but inshallah, the bulk of it is now done. So alhamdulillah, now you guys can kind of just go through everything, take your time with everything and go through everything, and inshallah, try to just absorb everything that we've gone over in these last 3 weeks. Yeah. So if anyone's got any questions at all, please do message me, inshallah. And over the weekend, please do practice as much as you can. And just before I end this class, please remember my words at the start of this class, that struggling is part of the process. So if you're struggling, just don't worry about it. It's all part of learning. You're going to struggle, you're going to fail, you're going to have those times where you can't do it, but it's all part of the process. And if your struggle makes you closer to Allah, that it causes you to become humble, your struggle causes you to realize your own flaws as a human being, if your struggle causes you to ask Allah for help, then alhamdulillah, it's a blessing. So keep that in mind, inshallah, as you practice. Okay, I'll see everyone on Monday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.